Now with deepseek, for some reason, you use deepseek as an example, right? So the founder is actually a hedge fund tycoon, right? He's loaded, right? So he has money, he's willing to burn, and also, for his own business, he's been using AI algorithm, to trade, to make money from the Chinese market, and has been very successful. And so I think deepseek is one of those sort of accidental sort of fortune that the founder used his own money to burn, and there's very limited government intervention, and therefore deepseek was able to flourish under such system. I think to replicate the success of deepseek really needs a really hands-off approach from the government.
大家好，今天给大家带来的是洪灏接受彭博社的英文采访。说英文的洪灏真的是非常犀利。这段采访呢，他也火力全开，尤其是对近期政府部门对私营企业的各种政策进行了点评。让我们一起来看一下吧。
We continue to see improving sentiment towards Chinese CEI index rising to a 3-year high before giving up some of those gains in the previous session, but still we've seen it roar in the past month. And with that, the fortunes of some of these tech billionaires, Pony Ma, co-founder of Tencent, briefly becoming China's richest person with almost a $57 billion fortune. Jack Ma also adding more than $5.5 billion to his wealth. Our next guest says even though we've seen a big rally in Chinese tech stocks, it will take more time for it to replace the property sector as a growth engine for the economy. Joining us in the Hong Kong studios, Hao Hong, partner and chief economist at Grow Investment Group. Oh my goodness, so good to see you back in person. It's been a few years and so much volatility and ups and downs for the Chinese market since then. Do you think this is a sustainable rally?
It's a good rebound. So I think before it really evolved into a multi-year sort of a rising trend, a lot needs to be done. And for now, I think many of us are still seeing fundamental problem with the Chinese economy. So as such, the earnings growth hasn't been sustainable for some time. For the past 10 years, earnings per share in the Chinese market is more or less the same. Right, so basically, the change in the stock price level has been the result of changing in valuation multiples. Right, so if you really want a sustainable bull market for the long term, you really want a sustainable growth model going forward.
There's a lot of optimism about these cheaper AI models, and perhaps that China could lead the way when it comes to the new tech revolution. Could that sustain it, those expectations?
I think for now, people are really enthusiastic by the prospect of it. I think DeepSeek did a really good job to break the technology hegemony and the embargo from the U.S. Now, having said that, though, I think it's still very difficult to see how to monetize from this app, and also, Chinese are renowned for not willing to pay for software. Right, so I think if you look at back in the 90s, right, so when Windows was first introduced to China, right, so basically 99% of the copies used in the market is actually pirated copies, right, all the way until like 10, 15 years later. Right, so it's a difficult market to monetize. Right, I think it's still very early stage. It's a huge breakthrough, but then at the same time, for now, I don't see a good way to monetize it. But then regurgitate a lot of the gains towards the end. And also yesterday's, the best performing sector is actually the SOE sectors. The private sectors, for some reason, is lagging substantially yesterday.
And I'm guessing you think that none of this exuberance or that we've seen so far is enough to counterbalance against the broader economic malaise, the property overhang. What more can the government do from a policy perspective to really change the mindset there?
Yeah, I think so far this technical rebound has been the result of the sentiment change, right? So because the DeepSeek moment really woke up the Chinese investment community and see, wow, what is possible, right, going forward. And also the Chinese tech sector valuation has been depressed for a long time. And some of the foreign investors have been buying, for a sort of a trading opportunity. And I think that sort of set off the rally in the past months or so. I think right now, we're running into a very strong resistance level, right? So these are key technical levels, and many of our technical indicators are actually running into a very strong resistance. Right? So for the market to go substantially higher from here, a lot needs to be done. A lot of policies needs to be set, in March in the coming twin sessions.
always with the voice of caution, leaders like in the forefront
Yeah.
of what he's trying to achieve. How much is this to do with the Trump trade tensions, with potentially the rivalry that's just going to heat up in the next few years, and how Beijing needs to position for that? And given that sort of external threat, could you see it being more proactive in terms of helping the private sector?
I think to a certain extent, China needs the private sector to be strong more than ever now. I think the government is indeed trying to help the private sector to a certain extent. But having said that, in the past few years, what gets really strong is the SOE sectors, right? So the resources is really going into the SOE sectors, and because of the incentive system, the commercial banks are lending sort of towards the SOE sectors rather than to the private sectors. Because if your loan goes sour, you have to be responsible, right? Even if you left the job. Right, so that's the reason why the private sector is not getting enough credit, and if they really want to grow, they have to find a way to get credit from the banking system. Now with DeepSeek, for some reason, you use DeepSeek as an example, right? So the founder is actually a hedge fund tycoon, right? He's loaded, right? So he has money he's willing to burn, and also for his own business, he's been using AI algorithm, to trade, to make money from the Chinese market, and has been very successful. And so I think DeepSeek is one of those sort of accidental sort of fortune that the founder used his own money to burn, and there's a very limited government intervention, and therefore DeepSeek was able to flourish under such system. I think to replicate the success of DeepSeek really needs a really hands-off approach from the government.
I wanted to get your views on Alibaba, because I do wonder, with this sort of return to the fold with Jack Ma, how much could we see a re-reversal of Baba's fortunes, right? Because you can take a look on that chart, 2020 November, when the Ant IPO was called off. We've not even seen, with the recent recovery, that stock price even halfway back to the previous levels. Do you think that this is the start of a meaningful improvement?
Yeah, I think BABA has done a lot of work in the past few years, right? So I think it is actually leading the AI investments in China, right? So a lot of people didn't see the efforts, the endeavors that is being sort of undertaken by BABA. Having said that, though, the stock has rallied for like more than 50% now. All right, so even though it's down substantially from the peak in 2021. People still need to see earnings growth from this company, and also sort of a better sort of a reception from the government for BAB, and also for the entire private enterprise, for people to pick up confidence again in these sectors.
按照惯例啊，洪灏还是先谈到了股市。春节之后啊 ，A 股进行了一个比较大的反弹，尤其是科技板块反弹力度比较大，而且房地产板块也开始慢慢恢复，整个情绪面相较去年年末有了一个比较明显的提升。但是洪灏对这波反弹的持续性存疑，尤其他认为目前反弹比较凶的科技股，它没有盈利的基础，完全是因为 deepseek， 因为语数科技的机器人而带动起来的，就是通过热点事件带动了情绪面。然后洪灏就谈到了国有企业和私营企业。洪灏发布了一组数据中国金融系统，尤其是银行的信贷部门，对国有企业和对私营企业的支持力度是完全不一样的。中国的金融系统普遍更喜欢国有企业。为什么他们喜欢国有企业？最重要的一个原因就是很多银行的客户经理，他们给国有企业放款，如果一旦出现坏账的话，他们是不需要承担太大的责任的。而且退一万步讲，国有企业出现问题，很多时候政府会想办法去解决。但是如果一个银行的客户经理，他给一个私营企业放款，最终成为了坏账，那这个客户经理未来的职业生涯会受到非常大的影响。而洪灏也谈到了 deepseek， 他认为 deepseek 成功的原因有2点。第一点就是 deepseek 的母公司，它的资金实力非常雄厚，它如果不是在一个资金实力这么雄厚的公司，它很难 达到目前的成就。而且不光他的母公司资金实力雄厚，他的创始人也愿意烧钱做这件事。还有一点呢，就是他在发展之初实际上没有受到政府过多的监管。这3点原因最终促成了 deepseek 的成功。所以洪灏认为deepseek 的成功，它是一个偶然因素，它不是一个各方努力共同达到的结果。最后就说到了马云回归，他也认为这是政府释放的一个善意的信号，表明政府愿意帮助民营经济的一个信号。但是洪灏认为，只有真心实意的去帮助民营经济，才能为中国未来的经济打下一个良好的基础。好了，本期视频就到这里，感谢大家收看。